Ever looked at a giant list of numbers and just felt completely lost? Well, today we are going to demystify one of the most powerful tools in your data toolkit, the histogram. We're going to see how it takes total numerical chaos and turns it into a clear visual story. Let's dive in.
So here's the game plan. We'll kick things off with the problem, a big old mess of numbers. Then we'll see how a histogram gives that data some shape. The really crucial part is going to be our experiment with bin sizes, because that can totally change the story. And finally, we'll see how this stuff works outside the classroom and lock in the key takeaways.
All right, so let's start with a situation you've probably been in. You've got the data, but you've got zero insight. Just imagine you've wrapped up a survey for a class project. You've done the hard work, and now you're staring at this spreadsheet that's just full of numbers. The big question hits you. What on earth does any of this actually mean? Okay, check this out. Let's say this is your data, a list of commute times for students. Just by scanning it, can you see any kind of pattern? What's a typical commute? Are there any really long or short ones? It's pretty much impossible to tell, right? It's just a jumble. This is exactly why we need to visualize it. And that brings us to the hero of our story today, the histogram. This is the tool we're going to use to bring some order and, some shape to this kind of number-heavy data. So what is this thing really? Well, a histogram is a special kind of graph that shows us the frequency distribution of our data. Now, in simple terms, that just means it groups our numbers into ranges or buckets and shows us how many data points fall into each one. Its entire job is to reveal the hidden shape of our data. Let's break down how one of these is actually built. Along the bottom, that's your x-axis, we have our range of values, like our commute times, and they're chopped up into intervals that we call bins. Going up the side, the y-axis, that's the frequency. It's just a simple count of how many numbers fall into each bin. So the height of each bar tells you how packed with data that little interval is. And this is super important, the bars are always touching. That's our visual clue that we're looking at a continuous scale of numbers, not separate categories. Now, this is a super common mix-up, so let's get it straight. A bar chart is for comparing separate categories, right? Like favorite pizza toppings. The bars have gaps between them, and you could totally reorder them without changing the meaning. A histogram, though, is all about showing the distribution of continuous numbers. The bars have to touch, and their order is locked in because they follow the number line. You can't just go shuffling them around. Okay, now for what is seriously the most important part of this entire process. Making a histogram isn't just about clicking a button. You, the person analyzing the data, have to make a critical decision that will completely change what you see. We're about to run an experiment with our commute time data. See, the one thing you actually have control over is the bin size, how wide you make those intervals on the bottom axis. And as you're about to see, this single choice can either reveal the truth hidden in your data, or it can hide it completely. First up, let's see what happens when we're a little too simplistic. We decide, hey, let's just use a few really wide bins. Think of this as trying to look at your data with super blurry glasses on. And here it is. Wow. With only 3 bins, what can we even say? Looks like most people have commutes under 50 minutes, I guess? But all the juicy details, the nuance about the data's true shape, it's just gone. We've oversimplified it so much that it's basically useless. It's just a blocky, uninformative mess? Okay, so that was bad. What if we swing to the complete opposite extreme? What if we try to be way too detailed and create a ton of tiny, narrow little bins? Whoa, look at that. It's just noise. This is like trying to tune into a radio station, but all you're getting is static. Each of those little spikes is a tiny count, but we've completely lost the overall signal. The real shape of the data is totally buried under all this jagged noise. We can't see the pattern at all. So the huge takeaway here is that we're searching for the Goldilocks zone. Not too wide, not too narrow, but a bin size that is just right. One that lets the true story of the data shine through. And there we go. Now that is a clear picture. With just a moderate number of bins, a story suddenly appears out of the chaos. This beautifully shows us the distribution. We can see exactly where the data piles up and how it spreads out. So what does this awesome new picture actually tell us? Well, now we can easily spot the peak. That's the most common range for commute times. We can see the overall shape and notice it's a little skewed off to the right. And we can clearly see that 62-minute commute just hanging out by itself, a potential outlier. We couldn't see any of this stuff before.
So we've seen how to build a great histogram with some student data, but why does this actually matter when you're not in class? Well, let's take a look at a real-world business example.
Imagine a local bookstore. The owners think their customers are mostly young adults, so all their marketing, all their social media is aimed right at that group. But are they right? A histogram can give them the real answer.
So, their process is pretty simple. First, they collect age data from their customer loyalty program. Next, they build a histogram of all those ages. Now the magic happens when they analyze the shape. What if the histogram shows two peaks? One for young adults, sure, but another, totally unexpected peak for people in their 50s. Bam! The histogram just revealed an entire customer group they've been ignoring. And that insight lets them make smarter business decisions and change their marketing to reach everybody.
And that really brings us right to the main point of this whole explainer. A histogram is so much more than just a chart. It's a storytelling tool.
So let's just quickly recap the big ideas. Histograms take a confusing list of numbers and give it an understandable shape. They are built specifically for continuous data. That's why those bars always touch. And most importantly, the choice of bin size isn't just some random setting. It's a thoughtful decision that you get to make to best reveal the story hiding in your data.
So, the next time you're looking at a dataset, remember this. You're not just plugging numbers into a program. You are an investigator, and you're choosing the right lens to look through. The power to uncover the data's true story is right there in your hands. So, what story are you going to find?